It is Wednesday, December 3rd, 2025. I will call the Kashkanan Estates Workshop to order. We'll call the roll, please.
Sure. Council President Jekyll,
Here.
Council Pro Tem Schultz,
Here.
Councilmember Lesko here,
Here.
Councilmember Huckabee here, Councilmember Johnson.
Here.
Okay, all
Thank you.
present.
All right. Just before we get fully started here, just a brief overview. This workshop tonight is focused on using the data we received from the studies and cost estimates to provide direction to staff on a path moving forward. We are seeking productive feedback from residents and the Kashkanan Estates property owners. We understand that there are some folks here that may be disappointed in how the subdivision was allowed to develop in the first place, but we cannot go back and change the facts of what has happened, and we just have to look forward to what we can do in the future. Um, Note that no final decision will be made tonight, and residents will have additional opportunities to address the council when the matter on a regular agenda meeting happens. So with that being said, we will start with a presentation of the site investigation for the Kashkanan Estates and the cost estimates. And I believe we just had Andy Burt tonight to do all this.
Yes.
Good evening, everyone. Thank you, Kyle. As indicated earlier this year, Grafe engineers, they conducted, or they were hired by the city to conduct a site investigation of the Kashkanan Estates subdivision. Unfortunately, Joy could not make it tonight, so I'm filling in and do the best I can here. But so anyway, got a brief presentation for you that's going to review kind of the results of their investigation, including some options as well as some costs associated with that. One thing I guess I wanted to be clear that the options or the alternatives that you're going to see here, these are one of a few, essentially infinite number of options that there could be, but we had to decide on a couple of feasible options with the goal of determining, is it feasible to have sustainable development in this development. So with that, I'm going to start the presentation and get through that, and then we can have a discussion. So let me just click. Yeah, so hopefully y'all can see here, part of the investigation consisted primarily of three components that Grafe looked at, and that was the wetlands in this area, the floodplain, and then the soils present in this area. This work was conducted both by desktop reviews of existing data, but then there was also field investigations, including soil borings and wetland delineations and that sort of thing. The end result and the goal was to determine, when you factor in all those items, which are very prohibitive to development, what are we left with in terms of area within the existing subdivision that could in fact be developed. And so what we're left with here, the exhibit that you're seeing, this is a conglomeration of all those investigations, and it's showing us essentially what is left that is essentially suitable for development. So as you see in here, the red lots that are shown, those were deemed undevelopable, and then they vary by the color to lots that are in fact developable. I believe the dark gray lots are where current homes are constructed, just so you can see and get a frame of reference there. And the light blue, purple, and the dark blue, those are obviously the streets that are out there, and those are also were evaluated in terms of their long-term sustainability and maintenance of those. And so you can see there's quite a wide variety, but there's a good portion of that subdivision that is marginal or worse for suitability for development. So then the next step Grafe took was knowing which properties are essentially viable, which are not. What are some options that potentially could be constructed to maximize the suitability of this particular subdivision? And so with that, we look at the first scenario, scenario one. This is not changing any of the lot lines as they currently are laid out. And you can see again, these here with the boxes and the X's, those are lots that have existing homes. And in addition to those homes, this option would allow for 13 additional single family homes. That's what the SFH is. That's additional single family homes. And those are shown with these the clear lots that show the rectangles with the X's in there. Those would be lots that could be developed in addition to the homes that are already there. In addition to that, the road modifications are shown here. So the segments in purple, I believe those would be essentially eliminated. And then the blue sections of roadways, those would be improved to provide that access to the existing and potentially proposed homes. So with that, then actually Rooker Milkie, we were tasked with putting together cost estimates for these and strictly construction cost estimates. And I will note that for this exercise, we did not look at the offsetting costs of potentially sales of lots to developers. So that was just not part of this exercise at this stage. But clicking here, it's behind the thing here. Oops. Oh, shoot. Can I minimize that?
You should be able to see on that one, right?
Yeah. Okay, well, there we go.
But this is, you're in scenario 4 now, Andy.
Oh, did I get there? Okay, how do I back up here?
Back to, I think if you scroll
previous.
backwards.
Sorry about that. Okay, so scenario one, as I talked about, estimate to conduct this work and convert the subdivision to what's shown on the screen there, a little over $1 million. And so you'll see that as we go through these other scenarios, just kind of the scale of the costs associated with these. So scenario two, again, the lots are not changing, but the roadway, there's some slight different configuration that's shown. And in addition to that, there are 36 additional single family homes. Again, in this case, the purple segments of road are just not suitable for roadway construction. All these lots that are in green, those were from that initial study that are just not at all suitable for development. Again, the yellow shaded are where current homes are, and then these other lots with the rectangles in them are potential lots that could be developed. And one other point I wanted to clarify, these homes that potentially could be developed, I believe the criteria would be that these homes would not have basements. It's just this whole area again is groundwater, floodplain, that sort of thing. So you could build a home, but it would not be advisable to construct these with a basement. So again, this scenario here, if I click on this one, so this is. Yeah. it'd be
No,
nice.
we can't make it wider.
Nice
It's
to
on a
see.
PowerPoint, so.
So this one's a little bit more, $1.5 million. And so we'll keep moving on. And obviously, when we get through this, we'll come back for discussions. We can revisit any of these scenarios. Scenario 3, again, just there are some lot changes in this one as well as road configurations. And we're getting 32 additional single family homes. So here you can see there's a modification to the road here, turning it into with a cul-de-sac. Again, the road here in the light blue, again, reconstructing that, but implementing a cul-de-sac here. And then the existing and new developed lots. And this one has a total a little more than the last one, $1.6 million. So we're hovering in that 1 million to 1.6. Scenario 4 have some further road configurations. You can see up here, we're moving this road a little bit further west because the soils and whatnot were a little bit better. So reconstructing road here, and then redoing or reconstructing the road in blue, and then reconfiguring the southern portion to a cul-de-sac to get us a few additional developable lots down here. So with this scenario, we are a little bit more than the last $1.62 million. Scenario 5 and scenario 6 were two scenarios that in discussions with the city, we wanted to add as part of this discussion. They weren't included in the original study. So scenario 5 is, okay, we're not interested in creating any new developable lots, but we want to basically be able to serve the existing homes that are there with good infrastructure. And so, so what you can see here, basically a large portion of the roads out here in the green, I believe those are up, that's all roads that are abandoned, removed essentially from the subdivision, and simply just providing a road here with the cul-de-sac, and then just providing essentially a long driveway accesses to these homes. So not ideal, but that's kind of the bare minimum, if you will, just to, like we said, just to provide service to the existing homes that are there. And that one, obviously, as you'd expect, would be a little bit on the cheaper side, but still, just hovering a little bit below $1 million, because the roads that we would put in there all need basically full reconstruction in addition to these the extensions to their houses. And then scenario 6, this option we want to look at too. So this is where the city would essentially purchase the existing homes that are in this portion of the development and south, and contract with somebody to actually move those houses to further to the north in this northeast part of the subdivision, converting the existing park area that's there to 4 lots that we could plop for the homes, and then the remaining 3 would be in this section here with a new cul-de-sac off of the main road. And so everything else basically south of that would be abandoned in terms of the road infrastructure. And so with this one, the cost here obviously is the highest. There's a large portion of that cost is obviously in the purchase and the relocation of those homes, more so than the actual infrastructure improvements. But we did want to revisit this scenario to hopefully give everyone a complete picture from doing the bare minimum, just provide access to the homes that are there, to totally reconfiguring, reconstructing large areas within the development, and then finally, let's actually move the homes out of the poor, not suitable areas and relocate them in the northeast corner. So I believe with that is all that we have for the discussion, and we certainly open it up now for discussion, questions, Yeah, I think as Kyle indicated, this is a, workshops, we're just trying to get everybody's feedback and, opinions and so forth. And nothing is going to be decided obviously tonight. But it's good to, we got to start somewhere and start the discussion. So with that,
This portion is for council to review any questions or ask.
Okay, yeah, I've got a handful of questions here. First one in option number 5, where it's like the long driveways. Couple of questions I would have. Would emergency services still be able to access those locations if, 911, a fire, et cetera? I would assume yes, but
yeah, so the public roadway portions would be constructed that in a way that they would satisfy the requirements of the fire department
Okay.
for access. Now they would have, and certainly they would have to have their input, since there's kind of some long driveways, there might still need to be, because of that length, some features like, a roundabout or at least a T intersection at the end. So if they did happen to drive down the driveway, they would have that ability to turn around.
all right, the same question would go for garbage collection.
Correct. Yep.
Who would own would it still be city owned for the driveways or I'm gonna driveways in quotes?
Yeah, I think we'd have to work through what that would
Okay.
look like because we would likely need to replat
Yeah.
the land there. And I would think it would be driveway easements. And then you look at plowing and you look at who's taking care of snow maintenance and whatnot. And that is an option and if that was the option that the council chose, we'd have to figure all that stuff out.
Okay.
But I mean, we don't have answers for every one of those right now.
My question for option number 6 would be, what if the property owners don't wish to sell? Would it just be, the city gets first right of refusal when they do choose to sell, or eminent domain, or what that would look like?
I don't think we could use eminent domain because we wouldn't be taking it for a public purpose.
Okay.
I mean, it would end up being parkland or city-owned land. But I mean, that's why we're having the discussion, right? I mean, that's why we need input from the property owners. We need input from the council is just to understand where people, if property owners out there would be willing to sell, or maybe in that scenario, if the city moved the house and they would keep ownership of the house and own the new lot and the new house, right? So there's options within each one of these scenarios.
The last question I have for option number 6, where obviously the most costly, do you think they're obviously purchasing the houses, relocating them? Would there be any revenue of selling the house, or do you think that'd be about neutral based on the costs of relocating them?
Between the city buying them and paying to relocate them, I don't think the city would be made whole with the sale.
Okay, possibly a loss or neutral.
Yeah, and one of the things I think we need to think about this subdivision in terms of what's a sustainable future versus revenues, right? And that's why one of the reasons we didn't include possible revenues in the calculations for these is because I think the council would want to make a decisions based on long-term sustainability, not as much about, return on investment in this scenario.
Yep, understood.
In the scenario where we move all the homes, is that an all or nothing scenario? What if everybody but 1 or 2 are willing to let their homes be moved? What does that present for a problem?
I mean, yes, it would be a problem.
Right.
I mean, there wouldn't be an option, if that was what we decided to do, it would be because all the property owners are on board and want to proceed in that way. Because we can't, if the option is to abandon the infrastructure south of there, then obviously we can't serve a home. Home wouldn't have a way to get there or to leave or to have services provided. So that is an option that is the most expensive option, and, you know, maybe it's the least likely, but we wanted to put everything on the table. And, you know, maybe we leave here tonight and we only know that 2 of these things are non-starters. That's a better place than we were when we got here.
So I have a question going back between like scenario 1 and 2. I notice there's a lot of ones kind of blocked out in scenario 1, but they're right adjacent to some of the properties on 2 that are allowable. Or maybe it's,
Yeah, if I'm gonna go back to prior to the scenarios.
yeah, like to the left there. Up, you should go up with, yeah, right there,
Like
them
these?
4 lots, them 2, and then the 2 above. Why would
Yeah.
those not be suitable in this
So,
one, but the next one?
yeah, so if I go back one more, Kyle, so in this scenario here, as I talked about, the things that they were looking at were like the wetlands, the floodplain and the soils. So it could, you know, and as you probably know, there can be a high variability in soils and wetlands, you know, within a site. And so that was the biggest driver is like, I think we took close to 40 borings out here
Mhm.
to get a pretty good cross section and representation of what's out here. And so it just was a matter of when you overlaid all those criteria, the floodplain, you know, wetlands and the soils, some lots were basically not developable across all 3. Some were just 2, some may have just been 1. So that's why we have this variation across the site.
Okay. I just, like I said, looking
Yeah.
at between 1 and 2, you
Yeah.
see that there's, 2 has more lots
Yep.
than 1, so
Yep.
that's
Yep.
where it's kind of confusing me with
Right.
that point.
Yeah.
And I think with, let's see, if you go to between 1 and 2, to your point, there are additional lots on the west side of that road, but in scenario 1, part of that road is abandoned.
Yep,
So we wouldn't be able to have lots
Yeah.
along that side if this road is removed. And
my
put
my
on
idea was more
cul-de-sacs.
so the north and south lots there.
Yeah, these
Oh.
here.
The roadway is still extended in between there, so it's not like it's changing because we're looking to address that northwest corner.
Yeah. And Kyle, this road in this scenario was extended to this point. Probably should have, you know, touched on this large lot here could be developed as like a, you know, multifamily type development. So that's why the road is extended to that point.
Okay.
So they could have access.
Okay,
So basically, under this scenario, to Kyle's point, there may be an additional lot or 2 that could be developed under this scenario.
Yeah.
Because in scenario 2, we have those 4 lots that he's referring to as developable with that road extension. So there may be, I mean, like we said, there's options within each one of these
Yeah.
options.
no answer is the right answer regardless here,
Right,
so.
right.
Yeah.
Were borings done on existing lots with homes on it?
I don't think we conducted borings on existing lots.
Okay, I think one of the first charts you had that had color coded green, red, and then it had grayed out
Probably,
sections for the existing ones.
Yeah.
So we would not know the grayed out existing ones if those would have received a green, yellow, red rating.
Right, exactly. Right. There's a high likelihood that some of the gray boxes would be red.
Sure.
Yeah.
You know, if there was not a house there, I'd be, you know, willing to say that for sure. But it just so happens, you know, somebody went ahead and developed and built a house. So
Yeah. You started by saying, framing this with, you know, we want to look and consider if it is feasible to have sustainable development, in the subdivision. And I guess on I don't know if it's too early to ask you that, but in your professional opinion, if money weren't an object in this equation, like, do you have strong feelings on which way might be, or ways which might be better options than some of the others? And again,
well,
it's just, if cost weren't an option, which of course it
Yeah.
is.
Yeah, without giving it, additional thought, I mean, first off, if I, like Kyle had indicated, if going back even further, in my opinion, this development should have never happened, from day one, but like you said, it has. And so taking costs out of the scenario, I think it'd be, getting the home to just moving them up in the northeast corner and into areas that are, better suited for development, and abandoning the rest just for the long-term sustainability.
Thank you for.
I'll also just note to that point, the city has a lot of infrastructure underground in this area, including a very large sanitary sewer intercept that continues south from this neighborhood, continues south, and then eventually goes underneath the river into the wastewater treatment plant. So there will be a need for the city to maintain access to that sanitary sewer intercept forever. And what that looks like is, it doesn't have to be paved access, but it would have to be some sort of gravel access to the manholes for the sanitary sewer intercept. You can see it at the south end of this scenario 5, those green lines that are far south, not the roadway green, but those that leads to that intercept. So even if we end up with the decision that, we remove the infrastructure, we can remove or cap, the water infrastructure that's underneath the ground. But the sanitary sewer would need to remain, and we would need to be able to access it.
I've lost track mentally of when this development started and how many years, when did the first house, do we know how long ago the first house went?
I believe it was platted in 2004.
So yeah, we're looking at something that is more than 2 decades in the making that now we are trying to react to. So I
Yeah.
think that's important for us to
Right.
remember that there's a whole wave of different people who got us to this point, and now we're trying to figure out how do we go forward.
And I don't have any questions right now, but I probably will after we hear from the residents
Yeah, sure.
and what their take is on
Yeah, absolutely.
long
Absolutely.
driveways
Yeah,
and
for sure, for sure.
house movings and. Mhm.
Nothing else from any of the council members here?
Oh, I do have one more. On scenario 6, that's the one where they're moving the houses. In that upper, with the cul-de-sac on the upper
Yeah.
east. So are basements allowed in these, or would this have to be slab built as well?
It'd probably still be slab
Okay,
and grade, yeah.
And in that scenario, we would likely move that park
okay.
to an area that is probably less high quality land, but not poor land.
Thank you.
All right. With that being said, I would open this up to the public input session for any of the property owners there. Members of the general public. You'd be allowed to ask one question each. Questions or I'd prefer it to be questions at this time, not just full on statements, unless you do have a, true thought as to what you'd prefer there, so. Right? Yeah.
Go ahead.
Okay, so I'll start off with those who have signed up. Chris Baginski, I believe. Sorry if I mispronounce any names tonight.
Okay, thank you. My question relates to how the study and the report was put together. and whether the engineering firm considered, one, the impacts of an additional 13,000 to 35,000 square feet of impermeable surface and how that would impact new artificially developed wetlands, which was mentioned in the report. And then secondly, whether the engineering firm considered that the 100-year floodplain may actually be larger than what has been delineated so far, based on not having 300 years of flood data to accurately assess what the 100-year flood is, because that dictates how far into the neighborhood already the floodplain is, and it could be further into the neighborhood than what's been delineated.
Perfect. Thank you.
Yeah, on some of these, I'll just have to take some notes and we'll get some answers for those and you know, I'm sure we'll have another meeting at some point, so we'll present that information when we receive it.
If you have anything to top or, you know, add to this, Andy Burt, please, you know, I don't want to make you keep jumping up and down.
No,
all the
that's
time, but
okay. Get my steps in here today. Yeah, I don't know the full details of the report, but starting with the floodplain question, you know, what the firm mapped, you know, exact where the 100-year floodplain is currently. As you alluded to, the 100-year storm these days, or the 1% storm, is far more prevalent than it has been in the past. So the frequency of that 100-year storm is becoming more and more prevalent. So definitely somebody that's considering or would consider development in this development, you know, that may be of concern, because it certainly is different than it has been historically. And then I think you had talked about the additional impervious. I think certainly adding impervious surface does create, you know, additional runoff. However, I do believe in all of these scenarios, there is a net reduction in the overall impervious surface. So there would be an overall decrease in that in any of the scenarios that we talked about. So, but yeah, we can certainly touch base with the firm if there's any additional information that they have for you.
next, John House.
I have to sign in.
Nope.
Okay, my concern is basically these citizens right here. They're the ones that got hosed the worst in this whole project. Because when we had.
John, can you just speak into the microphone so we can get you recorded? Thank you.
Isn't it?
Yeah, it is portable.
When we had the flood in '08, I actually canoed right up to their back doorsteps. So that's how high the water was in '08. All the soil tests that have been taken when they first designed this, it failed twice. And then, as I spoke last night, the developer put tile in, so then the water level went down, and we also had a drought year that
Okay.
passed.
Again, this isn't going back on them.
I just don't want us to make the same mistakes as what happened. I mean, that's what I'm pointing out here.
Yeah.
And like right now, we're in my opinion, my 75 years, the worst drought conditions we've ever had. And of course, the soil tests were taken during this period. So it is my opinion, being around that land and watching them develop that all, that there shouldn't be anything that's suitable there for development. So at this point, that's all I have. I don't even have a question at this moment. Thank you.
Next, we have Jay Anderson, I believe.
answered my question about basements.
Okay, perfect. Thank you. See,
Mr. Manley?
Manley, sorry. Okay. And then Ron Martin.
So at the opening of, excuse me, the report presentation, Andy, I believe it was, asked the question, is it conceivable to have continued development in this area? And in my opinion, the answer is a pretty clear no. Rather than literally sinking more taxpayer dollars into this clearly ill-conceived subdivision, why doesn't the city decide to cut our losses and not continue to try to develop any of this area? That's my question. And it seems like scenario 5 makes the most sense and obviously would be the lowest cost to the city and our taxpayers. So thank you.
Thank you. I know we had a couple other people that snuck in right at the end. If any of those, right when we began, if any of you guys would like to. Okay, all right. I guess, at this point, we'll move on to council discussion. Have any more questions for Mr. Burt or staff?
So is there anyone here that lives in that specific area that's here tonight? You were? Okay. Because I'm just curious on what you notice with the water there and what your thoughts are on option 5.
Yeah,
I think that'd be
Councilmember Huckabee,
important.
maybe we can do that under number 7,
Okay.
which is so then maybe that's an appropriate place for them for the property owners to kind of speak to the council. So
I should have. brought the
Yeah,
agenda.
yeah.
Sorry. Good,
Uh,
because I'd like to hear that.
Yeah. So at this time,
Yeah.
if is there additional council discussion on the scenarios or the,
No, I think
input?
Mr. Martin made a kind of a good point. Back in 2018, 2019, prior to buying my house, I was contacted a couple builders, and they said they wouldn't ever build in this development. So one thing I would maybe consider, the way that I'd look at this, although we may have 30 some buildable lots, I'd really be concerned with any builders' willingness to actually build out there. I think some of the builders that I've known in the area, they wouldn't want to put their hands on this at all. So I think there'd be risk in nothing coming to fruition with more houses. One of the other questions I would have, obviously, we talked about the long-term sustainability of it, right? More homes generate property tax income. But I also know that generally single-family homes, let me rephrase, only about a third of our taxes actually goes to the city. The other 2/3 goes to the county school district and tech school. So like even putting in, and I would have to do some quick math, maybe $1,500 to $2,000 a year benefit to the city, but that would probably have to get turned around and just put back into maintaining streets and whatever else. I guess I just want to understand what your perspective on whether or not even adding more homes, and even if they did get built, would that even make it more sustainable, or would just maybe long driveways and not put more money into trying to redevelop roads that a builder wouldn't even build a house next to anyway?
Yeah, I mean, I don't have an answer for that question. That's a very valid question, and I think that's what we're here, to discuss and figure out. There are obviously there's maintenance costs when it comes to roads, and building. There's also a lot of ways to engineer a road that. Part of the reason these roads are in as bad of shape as they are is that they never had their second lift of asphalt. So they weren't built correctly in the first place. And, I wasn't around when they were built, but it doesn't seem like they used any extraordinary construction methods given the soils, right? So there are other construction methods for roads that are in wet areas. Those are generally more expensive than regular road construction. So, I mean, there are options, whether or not long-term, they would be more sustainable than the roads that are there. You know, I can't answer that.
Okay.
Yeah, I don't like option 6 personally. I feel like it's a lot of money to move and stuff. I I kind of agree with Eric on the option 5, more so kind of fits, just keeping um, some way of, at least serving the residents down there. I see there's, like 3 lots in between there that, maybe with option 5, you could hybrid a little bit and um, build on the redo those short stretches road, maybe not extend on all the way to the west, just go basically to the westernmost existing house. And we'd have 3 houses maybe, but again, like Eric brought up that, the amount of money to spend into this and how much we'd really recuperate in the end, which I know isn't really a number we can necessarily look at as a city, but
I think it would be helpful as we go forward to get some clear like information on the drought status. So I don't know that, and I don't know enough to say whether we're in a drought now or whether we were in one at the time that some of the borings were taken, or how much impact that might have on under the surface waters. So that might be helpful as we further the discussion to know that.
Sure.
I tried to find something real quick here, and of course, as of November 4th, 2025, I think we're either in the non-drought zone or abnormally dry. So, but that's as of a month ago, and it's off the DNR's website.
and I can say with my professional background, I had soil testing licenses that apply to this area, and there's ways to know what the groundwater content is without being a drought. You can see it in the ground soils when testing and doing their borings, so. Anything else from council? As I'll open up to the estate's property owners that can come forward and give additional input if you would like to. So I'll start with Chris again.
Okay, thank you. So my name is Chris Vigaski. I'm a meteorologist, actually. And I've lived at 1681 Isla Street since April 3rd, 2023. And in that time, I've actually taken daily precipitation measurements at my house since April 16th of 2023. So we've got 2.5 years of precipitation data there now. 92 inches of precipitation has fallen in that time. That is below normal. Even though we did have, just this last 10 inches of snow, we're up to 67 inches of snow since we moved in. But these numbers are all below normal. Currently, to the councilman, we are in an abnormally dry on the drought monitor, but we do go through periods of moderate, severe drought, which we saw a couple of years ago. But the precipitation across Wisconsin has been fluctuating wildly over the last 20 to 25 years. This is just some of the impacts that we've been seeing as part of the changing climate. But since moving in, I've planted 17 trees and hundreds of native perennials in my yard, hoping to alleviate some of these water concerns. In this time, I've also planted a large vegetable garden every year. Counted more than 4 dozen bird species that come through my yard each year. Dozens of monarch caterpillars grow up and turn into butterflies in my yard. We've got turtles and 5 species of frogs, and we've got deer and foxes and coyotes and hundreds of different insects that call the yard and the surrounding area home. It's a suitably dark place to see stars, planets, galaxies, the northern lights. But in the 33 months that I've been in Koshkonong Estates, I've replaced 3 sump pumps already. I've flushed my drain tiles of iron ochre more times than I can remember. And I spent one very long night pumping out my sump pump because the power went out before my backup generator was installed. And in reviewing the engineering report, I suspect that my lot would be considered not suitable for development. And these conditions aren't going to improve.
Can you point to which one
Yes.
is your lot? I'm sorry, the base map, the GIS base map is not coming up on.
So I'm the second lot from the right. Yeah,
That one.
right there.
Okay, thank you.
As shown in the report and as I discussed in my question, the 100-year floodplains moved gradually further into the neighborhood in the last 40 years, and this is only going to continue, and it may already be further into the neighborhood than what's currently designated. There's a technical report from the Association of State Floodplain Managers in 2015 that says estimates for an average recurrence interval 1/3 of the observed record length are generally accurate, but uncertainty increases consistently as the target recurrence interval increases. While the U.S. Geological Survey Bulletin 17C, that's the guidelines for determining flood flow frequency, shows that a 100-year flood may have as much as 20% more stream flow than the fitted curve. The Rock River discharges have only been measured at Jefferson since 1986 and in Fort Atkinson since 1998. So with less than 40 years of stream flow measurements, the 100-year flood estimate will be substantially less accurate than a 10 to 15-year. So I'm surprised that the base recommendation was to have additional homes to be built in the neighborhood, including on lots that have flooded at least twice since 2009. And as noted in that report, we understand that continually operating sump pumps are being utilized by homeowners in an attempt to keep their basements dry. Mine will pump every minute to 2 minutes. And when it rains, it's every 30 seconds. In 2 cases that have been noted in the report, drainage from these pumps has created new wetlands. And if we add more homes, I am concerned that additional runoff will do that some more. This was where my question came in, because it doesn't seem that the report considered how the runoff from these additional homes would impact the existing homes. And I have city-owned drain tile in my yard. And whether that would create additional wetlands, whether that will overfill my drain tile. And I think this is a very real risk. Replacing the currently unused lots and the vegetation that's already in there with thousands of square feet of impermeable surface, that significantly increases the risk of runoff and flooding in an excessively wet area already. So this will risk more damage to any reconstructed roads and to the property values for the existing homeowners. So in my mind, only 2 scenarios should be considered, scenario 5 or scenario 6. And in my mind, it's scenario 6 that's the best choice. With scenario 5, no additional runoff is created and no new properties that are listed as marginal or not suitable for development are disturbed, which is great. And with working with the USDA, Natural Resources Conservation Service, or with the Wisconsin DNR, you could return the land to a natural state that would increase water intake. But this doesn't protect the existing homes from continued floodplain encroachment or minimize the existing water concerns that we have. So that's why I suggest that scenario 6 is the right choice. Even though it has some impact on new properties that are listed as marginal or not suitable, as well as having to develop new area to move the existing homes, this effectively reduces the water concerns for any future homeowners. As in scenario 5, you could then take that existing land and return it to a more natural wetland state to increase the water intake, support the native wildlife of Fort Atkinson. You know, I'm really proud of the work that I've put in the last couple of years in my yard to alleviate some of the water concerns and improve the quality of the local environment. And it would be really disappointing for me to not see my trees grow up. But I think that scenario 6 is the best way to protect the property values for the existing homeowners and to minimize future water concerns for new homeowners. Thank you.
Thank you.
Would it be acceptable to ask a question or two at this point of when? Yeah. Yep. Glad we have a meteorologist with us. Because one of my questions was exactly to know what a 100-year floodplain is, and it could be that there is in any given year there's a 1% chance that you would experience a flood condition.
Correct. So the 100-year flood is a 1% chance in any given year that a flood of that magnitude would occur. So it doesn't mean that you're only going to get them once every 100 years. There's always that chance. And that 100-year flood, as I had alluded to accurately map where that floodplain is, you need 300 years of flood data. Which we don't have 300 years of flooding data for Fort Atkinson, unfortunately.
Thank you for that. My other question is, you mentioned the frequency with which your sump runs. Is that throughout the year or in the traditionally kind of wettest parts of the year?
That is year round. So even today, it's running every minute to 2 minutes.
Okay.
The lot immediately behind me had started to be dug in for a basement, and they hit the aquifer, and they had to stop. And so I suspect actually that the aquifer comes into my yard to a certain extent. Some of the wetland plants have been encroaching on our property in recent years, and I suspect that if we dug deep enough, we would get to that aquifer.
Thanks for the answers.
Thank you. Any of the other property owners in there would like to come up and speak at all, or? Yeah, seeing none, I will open this up for the council to discuss and provide their feedback to the city staff.
This might be a really silly question, but is there no other land available outside of this grid that the houses could be moved to?
No, we did not explore that for the purposes of this study. So there may be other options for moving the houses. Why we picked this is because obviously it's very expensive to move a home. So if you moved a home a shorter distance, that would be less expensive. But that's certainly an option, is to explore other locations for these houses. I will just note one thing. Without basements, there likely wouldn't be those sumps running, creating additional for any new development. There likely wouldn't be those sumps running, creating additional wetlands. However, additional homes with additional driveways would obviously create additional impervious surface. So I just wanted to note that.
I get two comments on it, like maybe it's just apparent, like my driveway generally drains into the street, which goes into the curb, which then flows into the sanitary storm sewer. Storm sewer, pardon me, which is more sanitary than the sanitary sewer.
Yes, it is.
Obviously with like option 5 is like the cheapest cost. That doesn't prevent option 6 from being executed in the future.
That's correct.
It maybe, cleans up some of the roadway that, gives us, I'm going to call it like a better paved driveway. But long term doesn't stop option 6 from happening. Where I think options 1 through 4 start closing doors, if they're even feasible. And I would maybe want to get some appetite from local buyers, present this builders, and present maybe this information and get their appetite or their, take the temperature of their opinions on whether or not they would even build. If they're saying no, then I think it takes away any benefit of those options.
And there are a lot of builders who don't want to build a product without a basement. I mean, there are some that do, but I had a conversation with one builder who asked about this land, and I said, we're studying it right now. We may have options in the future for land out there, but it would be without basements. And he said, my products have basements. Buyers have that expectation here, but yeah, that's good feedback. And I will certainly, we can reach out to a couple and just ask that question.
Do we know at what point in time we would want to make a decision, or is it just open-ended right now?
Right now, I mean, it's open-ended. There is no money in the budget for 2026 for any of these options. But as we learned last night, the city does have additional borrowing capacity, so we could borrow to complete any of these options, or we could continue to study. We could narrow it down a little bit, provide some direction for staff, and we could come back together and talk about this again. I just want to make sure that we understand, as staff and our consulting team, what the expectations are, so that we can provide you with the information that you need, to determine what's next.
Well, I think we definitely need more information on the easements and how the driveways would work in scenario 5. And resident feedback on that option, because that is a lot of driveway.
Yes. And maybe what we can do with the property owners here is make sure that we have all your contact information, and maybe we can have a meeting with staff, consultants, and the property owners in the area, and just get some feedback that's not in such a formal setting.
One last maybe thing I would maybe consider, and I don't know how to describe it. I know it as Chuck's Block, but it's the southernmost area. I think there were a couple options that had either changing or modifying or putting in a cul-de-sac in that area. I would almost consider, based on the information I know and what I've seen out there, would kind of be a non-starter. And I wonder if that would modify the costs of options like 2 through 4.
Oh, if that was removed.
Yeah.
Mhm.
I think that's my biggest thing too, is like all the options are valid options, but I don't like the idea of building more roads to potentially affect more ground. Any more excavating out there, as we've learned, can create more spring pockets and have more water running every which direction. So if we're going to do anything, I'd prefer to just stick to whatever streets we have and modify the streets if need be.
And the only, just as an owner in this area, I mean, I don't like option 6 because I love my house, and my interest rate, but but I'm speaking as a resident now. That is my least favorite, but I understand maybe that like that would be the best longest term solution for this area, but yeah.
Yeah, I mean, it's an important point in that, like you want to do what makes sense for the city, but you also want to accommodate those who are out there right now. And so is a big part of the discussions and the decisions to be made going forward. This is a start. I'm sure we will have plenty of more opportunities to further the discussion, but it is important to take into consideration what those who are out there would like to see happen.
I just have one question for any of the property owners out there. Are any of you the original builder, owner of the houses? Just you? Okay. And when was your house built? 2016? Okay.
So I don't know if like staff's, I mean, if what we were hoping was that we could kind of narrow things down and say like, yeah, there's some non-starters in here. We definitely don't want to go down that path. I mean, I don't know if we're comfortable making that decision yet. I mean, we've heard some input. Some of the scenarios too are what if, there are no lot line changes, and there's the ability to add 13, 36 or 32 other homes, but there's something less than that. So like there, balance it out. If there are concerns that we're going to create potential problems down the road, is 8 a right number? Is 12? I don't know what, but I assume that like the different scenarios were kind of identified what would be a maximum number under that scenario, but maybe there's some minimums that are doable.
And that's possible. The rule when you, well, not the rule, but when you look at and think about the cost of infrastructure, what you want to do is maximize the developable land.
Yep.
So
Good
a
point.
road costs, with underground infrastructure, $1 million for a mile, let's just say. So you'd want to maximize the number of lots that you could, develop. If you're building that same mile of road, yet you're saying, well, let's just put half as many houses as we could, then it's really inefficient, because that road still needs to be maintained, still needs to be plowed, still needs to have all those services that all the roads need, but there's just less tax base surrounding it to help support those services.
Yep, good point. Thank you for that.
I'm not saying that's not an option. I'm
Mhm.
just kind of providing the reality there of road construction. So, I mean, I have some questions to find answers to. I have some feedback, some additional information to gather. I think I would like to set up a meeting with property owners, and our consultants, and maybe just get some additional kind of just sit around a table and poke at some of these options, knowing that they are, still all on the table, but modifications possible. And then I think we would set up have another workshop and talk about the answers to the things that you provided that I have noted, and then also that more informal feedback from the neighbors. Does that sound like a path forward?
Yeah, and I'm wondering too, like if we were to try to sort of narrow down things to make it a little bit easier, like I don't know, to sort of put on the back burner now scenarios 2, 3, and 4, because those have the least amount of, I mean, they're the lesser of the costs of the first 4, which would allow for some additional homes. I don't know if like 2, 3, or 4 just kind of like, I don't want to say falls by the wayside, but if you were going to go down an option where you wanted to allow for some additional homes on those lots that have been identified as right now suitable for development without basements, you know, I don't know if that helps kind of narrow down the focus at all, or whether you would like to keep all of those in just for now.
I think one of the options that we should keep on the table is, you know, is Isla, the northern Isla. There's two Islas, which drives me crazy as a former city planner. There's that northern Isla with just to potentially get access to that multifamily parcel that is a developable parcel that could house, you know, more than just townhomes or, you know, two garden style apartments, 2-story, a couple buildings with garden style apartments. There's other options for access, I believe, for that lot as well. But I think that might be something we would want to consider. And you know, as far as that southern cul-de-sac, I think that feedback is received, that far southern portion where it's shown on scenario 3, which is just on this screen right here, that has that dark blue cul-de-sac, that the council does not appear to be interested in any sort of development on that southern loop. Is that accurate?
Yes.
Okay.
I think that road has also been closed the longest down in.
It has been. Yes. Okay.
Yeah, because I think getting the feedback from builders and what the driveways look like and the rest of your stuff, I think will help
Yeah.
a lot.
Yeah, and the driveway stuff, there's a lot of questions there, right? And we can brainstorm as staff and consultants and and the property owners to brainstorm, okay, well, what are the services that we get? You know, what do we need to be able to provide? What does ownership look like, right? Is this an easement situation because it might be in a public right of way? Those driveways would be, they would have to be some pretty heavy duty construction, right? Because we would want a nice thick base. We would want a fire truck to be able to get on them. We would want a, you know, I don't know if what garbage and recycling looks like in that scenario, right? Are people bringing their cans to the edge, to the bulb of the cul-de-sac on the very north piece? Or are you know, are they, are garbage and recycling trucks going down those driveways to get to, you know, and who pays for the maintenance and those types of things. So there's a lot to explore there. But I think that's something that we can, we can explore that a little bit more too. Yeah, thank you. This is
Garbage and recycling trucks are the hardest trucks on any
they-
municipality street.
yes, they are.
Because they're always running around loaded and they're on them streets every week.
Yep.
So. Yes, with that, I believe we've given some good feedback to the staff, so if there's nothing else, I would look to adjourn the meeting then.
Move to adjourn.
I don't think we need a motion or anything, but
Oh, no, we just
just
adjourned.
on-
All right.
no other comments from anyone, so.
All right.
All right, thank you everybody for coming and voicing some concerns and feedback. Thank you.